The marketplace of Baghdad was alive with its usual chaos, traders shouting their wares, beggars pleading for alms, and street performers dazzling crowds with their tricks. But on this particular day, the usual noise was accompanied by whispers of a new arrival. A traveling scholar, draped in flowing robes of silk and adorned with rings of gold, had come to the city. He claimed to possess wisdom beyond measure, knowledge of every science, and mastery over words that could humble the greatest minds. The people of Baghdad, ever eager for a spectacle, gathered in the central square where the scholar had arranged to give a public lecture. The caliph's ministers, curious about this man's intellect, took their seats in the front row. Merchants, laborers, and even street urchins filled the space around them, eager to witness the display of knowledge. Bahlool, dressed in his usual tattered garments, watched the scene unfold from a distance. He had seen many such men before, individuals who cloaked themselves in the illusion of wisdom but lacked the true understanding of life. With a sly smile, Bahlool made his way toward the front, determined to test the so-called scholar's intelligence in a way no one else would dare. The scholar cleared his throat and raised his hand to silence the crowd. "People of Baghdad," he began, his voice deep and theatrical, "I am honored to stand before you. I have traveled from the great halls of knowledge, from the libraries of Persia to the academies of Andalusia. My wisdom is unmatched, and I am here to enlighten you all." The crowd murmured in admiration. Even the caliph's ministers nodded approvingly. Bahlool, however, chuckled under his breath. He had met truly wise men before, and they never needed to declare their intelligence so boldly. Raising his voice, Bahlool called out, "O great scholar, if your wisdom is unmatched, surely you will not mind answering a few questions?" The scholar smirked, adjusting the folds of his robe. "Of course not," he replied, his tone dripping with arrogance. "Ask me anything, and I shall answer." Bahlool grinned. "Then tell me, if wisdom is measured by words, does that mean a parrot is wiser than a man?" The crowd chuckled, but the scholar's smile faltered. He quickly regained his composure and scoffed, "A foolish question from a foolish man. A parrot merely mimics words without understanding them." Bahlool's grin widened. "Ah, so you agree that speaking eloquently does not make one wise?" The scholar stiffened. He had walked straight into Bahlool's trap. The crowd, sensing the shift in power, leaned in eagerly. The test of wisdom had only just begun. A murmur spread through the crowd as Bahlool's words settled over them like a veil of quiet amusement. The scholar's confident posture wavered for a moment, but he quickly regained his composure, determined not to be embarrassed by a man dressed in rags. "Of course, true wisdom is more than mere words," the scholar declared, his voice carrying an air of forced patience. "But wisdom is also measured by knowledge, by the depth of one's understanding of philosophy, science, and the laws of the world. That is what separates the learned from the simple-minded." Bahlool nodded thoughtfully. "Ah, so knowledge makes one wise?" "Precisely," the scholar replied, folding his arms as if he had won the argument. Bahlool's eyes twinkled mischievously. "Then tell me, O great scholar, who is wiser, one who knows many things but cannot apply them, or one who knows little but uses that little to benefit the world?" The scholar hesitated, sensing another trap. "Knowledge, when vast and comprehensive, naturally leads to application," he answered, trying to sound profound. Bahlool laughed. "And yet, a man who owns a great library but never reads a book remains as ignorant as one who owns nothing at all." The crowd erupted in laughter and nods of agreement. The scholar's face darkened, but he forced a smile. "You are clever with words, Bahlool, but you lack true understanding. I have studied the sciences of stars, the depths of philosophy, and the laws of logic. Can you claim the same?" Bahlool tilted his head. "You have studied the stars, you say?" "Yes," the scholar said, straightening proudly. "I can read the heavens and predict events based on their movements. It is a skill few possess." Bahlool chuckled. "Then tell me, O wise one, where is the sun at night?" The scholar blinked. "What?" "The sun?" Bahlool repeated. You claim to read the heavens, so tell me, where does the sun go when night falls? The scholar scoffed. It does not go anywhere. The earth moves, creating the illusion of its disappearance. Bahlool clapped his hands together. So you admit that the eyes can deceive. And if the eyes can deceive, then is it not possible that your wisdom is also an illusion? The scholar's jaw tightened. The people of Baghdad erupted into cheers and laughter, thoroughly enjoying Bahlool's wit. The scholar, however, was not ready to give up. He straightened his robes and glared at Bahlool. You amuse the crowd, but you prove nothing. A true scholar is tested by his ability to answer deep and difficult questions. Since you seem so eager to challenge me, let us see if your own wisdom can match mine. I shall ask you a question, and if you cannot answer, you must admit your folly. Bahlool grinned. A fair bargain. Ask away. The scholar smirked, ready to reclaim his dignity. He took a deep breath and prepared to pose a question that would surely silence Bahlool for good. The scholar took a moment to compose himself, his mind racing for a question that would surely confound Bahlool. He needed something complex, something so intricate that this so-called madman would have no choice but to admit defeat. Finally, he spoke. Tell me, Bahlool, if a man stands in the middle of a river but does not move, and yet he is carried to the shore, how is this possible? The crowd fell silent. The question seemed like a riddle, one meant to test logic and intelligence. The scholar smirked, folding his arms as if he had already won. Bahlool scratched his beard, looking up at the sky as if deep in thought. After a few moments, he shrugged. That is simple. The man is standing on a boat. The scholar's smile faded. The crowd burst into laughter once more, delighted by Bahlool's quick wit. Bahlool grinned. Now it is my turn to ask you a question. He took a step closer, lowering his voice as if sharing a great secret. What is heavier, a bag of gold or a bag of wisdom? The scholar rolled his eyes. Wisdom has no weight. Gold, being a physical object, is obviously heavier. Bahlool nodded. Then why is it that when a fool carries gold, he becomes arrogant, but when a wise man carries wisdom, he becomes humble? The scholar's mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. Bahlool continued, his tone light but cutting. Gold may weigh down the hands, but wisdom weighs down the soul. A greedy man with gold believes himself rich, but a wise man with knowledge knows his true poverty. The crowd murmured in agreement. The scholar's face turned red, and he clenched his jaw in frustration. Your words are clever, Bahlool, but they are nothing more than tricks. True scholars debate with reason, not with riddles. Bahlool chuckled. Very well, let us leave riddles aside. Since you claim to be a scholar, tell me, what is the purpose of knowledge? The scholar exhaled sharply, relieved to finally speak on a topic of expertise. The purpose of knowledge is to understand the world, to advance civilization, and to distinguish between right and wrong. Bahlool nodded approvingly. A fine answer. But tell me, if a man knows what is right and yet does what is wrong, is he truly wise? The scholar hesitated. Well, no, he is not. Then what good is all his knowledge? Bahlool asked. If a man knows 1,000 laws but acts unjustly, is he better than a man who knows only one law but follows it with sincerity? The scholar had no answer. Bahlool smiled. True wisdom is not in the words we speak, but in the way we live. A man may claim to be a scholar, but if his heart is blind, then all his learning is as worthless as a book that is never opened. The crowd erupted into applause, recognizing the truth in Bahlool's words. The scholar, unable to argue further, turned away in silence. His reputation was built on his status, but Bahlool had shown that wisdom had nothing to do with fancy robes or eloquent speeches. It was in the heart, in the actions, in the ability to see truth where others saw only illusion. As the people celebrated Bahlool's victory, the madman simply laughed and walked away, vanishing into the streets of Baghdad, leaving behind yet another lesson for those who cared to learn.